Thanks, Mr. President, for calling this present day of prayer and remembrance. We wanted it at this time when Billy Graham surpassed away in 2018. His youngsters made an sudden discovery in his North Carolina study, tucked away in drawers, and shelves had been personal writings that exposed the internal turmoil of America's maximum famous preacher. Those journals discovered stunning truths: his crisis of faith that nearly ended his ministry, the proper tale behind his relationship with Nixon, and confessions about his biggest regrets. The person millions knew from television wasn't telling the whole story till now. Billy Graham became born on November 7th, 1918, just earlier than the stop of World War I. He grew up on a large dairy farm close to Charlotte, North Carolina. His mother and father, William and Morrow Graham, owned the 300-acre farm with more than 70 cows. Billy's youth became complete of difficult work every day. He had to awaken early to exploit 20 cows, after which do it once more after school. This habitual taught him subject and a sturdy work ethic. While he changed into 15, something abnormal came about after Prohibition ended. His father made him and his sister drink beer till they felt unwell. This odd experience made Billy dislike alcohol. For the rest of his lifestyles as a teen, Billy seemed like a normal kid. He'd become greater interested in baseball and ladies than whatever else. However, that identical boy could in the future hold forth to tens of millions of people everywhere in the world. By the time he was older, his sermons reached over billion humans through TV and radio. It's tough to consider that someone from such simple beginnings ought to have such a large impact. 150. The entirety started to alternate when Billy turned into 16 in 1934. There has been a revival assembly in Charlotte led by way of a preacher named Morai Ham. That identical year, a group of local businessmen had prayed at the Graham farm, asking God to elevate someone from their town to unfold his message at the beginning. Billy didn't even want to go to the revival. He had been rejected via a local kids organization for being too worldly, and he wasn't interested by spiritual events. However, a farmhand named Albert MCM saved pushing him to head. Subsequently, Billy agreed on the revival. Something notable took place. Billy did not recall what the preacher said. However, he felt deeply moved. It turned into like something was "speak me without delay" to him. He felt as if his feet had been heavy as he walked to the front and gave his lifestyles to Christ. This unmarried moment modified the entirety for him. Billy's choice to follow Christ could sooner or later lead to millions of others hearing about God. Billy's journey wasn't smooth, although at 18, he went to Bob Jones College. However, he struggled there. The policies had been strict, and he failed to match in. He nearly got kicked out after just one semester. The school's founder even instructed him that he wouldn't. Quantity to a lot. And might simplest be a small metropolis preacher. Rather than giving up, Billy determined to switch to Florida Bible Institute. That choice turned out to be existence. Converting at the new college, Billy felt more supported. He practiced his sermons in unusual ways, preaching to birds, trees, or even alligators near a river in 1938. Something powerful happened one night while walking on the college's golf direction. He felt torn about his future. He knelt down in the grass and informed God, "I'll do something, you need that." Second sealed his decision to commit his lifestyles to preaching in 1939. At simply 20 years, Antique Billy have become a Southern Baptist minister. Even though he grew up Presbyterian, he well known the Baptist religion and chose to sign up for it. He became baptized by using immersion in a lake, which became distinct from the sprinkling he had as a child. His ordination confirmed that even at a younger age, humans believed in his capability to unfold God's message. Billy Graham's journey to becoming one of the most famous evangelists commenced at some point of World War II, and the years that followed. At simply 25, he gave his first Youth for Christ sermon on May 27th, 1944, in Chicago. Over 2,000 human beings got here to listen him speak. This turned into the beginning of something big soon. He began traveling throughout the U.S., Canada, and Europe, talking at rallies and organizing Youth for Christ chapters. In January of 2001, 945, he have become the institution's first complete-time employee, taking up the activity of making plans, occasions each, nationally and the world over. Over the following 7 years, he spoke in over 300 towns, reaching heaps of human beings. Those early years helped him turn out to be the passionate preacher human beings could later understand. The Youth for Christ rallies were exciting and fresh. They didn't simply have preaching, there has been music. Tales from celebrities and masses of strength, those events attracted massive crowds, now and again as many as 700 people, many younger human beings determined. Hope in his phrases, specifically after the hardships of war by means of 1,946 Youth for Christ had grown fast with around 300 chapters within the U.S. and more than 200 remote places. These rallies became the start of something bigger. Now, not just for Billy, but for different businesses like World Vision and his own Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. A turning point came with the 1,949 Los Angeles Crusade. It started out on September 25th below a large circus tent referred to as the Canvas Cathedral. In the beginning, the crowds had been small, with approximately 3,000 humans attending, but then something incredible happened. Stuart Ham, a well-known radio host, gave his existence to Christ at some stage in the occasion. A few days later, Louis Zamperini, a battle hero and former Olympian, did the equal these moments caught the attention of media mogul William Randolph Hearst. He informed his newspapers to promote Billy Graham, and abruptly the entire U.S. was Speak Me approximately him the crusade, which turned into, speculated to closing 3 weeks, kept going for 8 weeks by the quit round 400, 0 humans had attended, and lots made decisions for Christ. This event made Billy a household call and opened doorways for extra crusades throughout the United States. In 1950, Billy knew he wished a way to organize. Crusade King's prayer called for unity and brotherhood, and he later praised Graham for addressing race problems, but their dating grew anxious in 1950. King entreated Graham not to let a segregationist baby kisser introduce him at a campaign in Texas. Graham left out this recommendation, announcing he didn't get concerned in politics, later Graham claimed. King informed him to stay in stadiums and have an impact on white audiences as opposed to becoming a member of protests. But there is no proof this conversation ever came about, and some scholars doubted Graham's movements on race had been frequently inconsistent. He demanded included seating at his occasion, but allowed segregated choirs at instances in 1965 after the violence in Selma. He preached in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, pronouncing, "I'm not right here to talk about neighborhood problems, simply the gospel." Many noticed this as averting the tough truths about racism. In a 1,960 article, he wrote that forced integration wouldn't work because you cannot make people love every different by using force. Whilst he fought for a few trade, his words frequently regarded to protect the reputation quo. Later in life, Graham admitted he may want to have carried out extra in 1989, he said, "I wish I had completed greater for civil rights after I become younger." A few praised his honesty, but others questioned why someone with his impact hadn't taken a stronger stand. Billy Graham's existence turned into complete affection challenges and faith that stimulated millions. His marriage to Ruth Bell Graham was like a storybook romance. They first met at Wheaton College in 1940, when Billy was operating on a furniture truck and saw Ruth for the primary time. It took him an entire month to build up the courage to invite her out. Their first date was to listen to Handel's Messiah on December 15, 1940. Ruth had always dreamed of turning into a missionary in Tibet, but she felt God had a special plan for her life. After praying and thinking about it, she determined to marry Billy, believing she may want to guide his work paintings for God's challenge in her own manner. They got married on August 13th, 1943. 2 months after graduating from Wheaton University, their marriage lasted for 63 years, ending simplest whilst Ruth handed away in 2007. Despite the fact that Billy traveled plenty for his ministry, they stayed linked, with daily cell phone calls when aside, and prayed collectively every night. When they have been together, Ruth as soon as stated, "I'd as an alternative have a touch of Bill than quite a few another man," showing how much she supported and loved him. They had their proportion of disagreements too. While Billy told Ruth she could not pressure after wrecking their automobile, she teased him by saying Abraham failed to take Sarah's camel away. Billy constantly said, "Ruth, become the most powerful, have an effect on in his life." And the foundation of their own family, Billy's beliefs about Christianity also changed as he grew older. At first, he accompanied strict fundamentalist teachings, but he commenced to see things otherwise. He decided to open his ministry to encompass people from distinctive Christian backgrounds in the late 40s, and 50s he chose to paintings with mainline Protestant churches or even Catholic corporations. This selection disillusioned some of his early supporters, but it allowed him to reach more people by means of the 1960s. His occasions had been drawing massive crowds, on occasion over 1,000,000 people, Billy wed, to share the message of Jesus with as many people as viable. He believed the Bible, become inspired through God, but did not trust very rigid interpretations. In 1964, he even met with Pope Paul VI, which amazed lots of his Protestant followers. Graham later worked with Catholic leaders at his activities and recommended Catholics to return to their nearby churches. Some of his perspectives induced debates, like when he said folks who did not understand Jesus directly might nonetheless find salvation in the event that they observed the light that they had of their hearts. Those thoughts made some evangelical leaders criticize him, but Billy usually stayed focused on sharing God's love with everyone. Billy also had clean views on social troubles, but he treated them with care. He believed lifestyles started at concept and spoke out towards abortion after the Roe v. Wade choice in 1973, but he failed to use harsh words or get overly political. He wanted to offer kindness and understanding on same intercourse marriage. He believed inside the traditional idea of marriage between a person and a woman in 2012 when he was 93 years old. He even paid for newspaper commercials helping this view, but he by no means condemned others. He as soon as stated, "We do not have a property to preach towards the whole lot we don't believe." Showing his perception and compassion over judgment in his later years, Billy confronted many health struggles but stayed robust in his faith. He became diagnosed with Parkinson's ailment in 1992, which made it hard for him to transport and speak over time. He additionally had prostate cancer and hydrous, a circumstance where fluid builds up within the mind. Notwithstanding surgeries and treatments, he endured his ministry for so long as he may want to. By the time he changed into in his 90s, his listening to and eyesight became very poor, but his mind stayed sharp. In his book, Nearing Home Domestic, he wrote, "Approximately growing older," and "Getting ready for demise, announcing his faith gave him peace." Billy's last massive public occasion changed into his 95th birthday in 2013. After that, he stayed at Domestic in Monroe, North Carolina, with his own family and caregivers. He handed away in 2018 on the age of 99, leaving behind a legacy of love, faith, and a message that reached millions.